Hello, welcome to the 2021 District 4 All-Star Tournament umpire training. Throughout this session, we will cover the important elements that you as the umpire need to know to be able to be effective during the upcoming All-Star tournaments. We are recording this meeting, and we'll have the opportunity for you to review this in the future. What are the All-Star tournaments? These are officially called the International Tournament of Little League Baseball and Softball. It's run by volunteers at all levels throughout Little League. We have 5 different tournaments for baseball, 4 for softball. They use specific age groups and are ranges of ages. We don't refer to Little League All-Star tournaments as U12 or U10 or U8. As might be referred to in other organizations. The tournament that allows players from ages 10 to 12 years old are called Little League Baseball and Little League Softball International Tournaments. These are the ones that most of us are familiar with as we see the Little League Baseball World Series from Williamsport, Pennsylvania each year, or the Little League Softball World Series, which has been held in Alpenrose, Portland, Oregon, and now will be held in North Carolina. There are local leagues that enter the tournaments. The tournaments are independent of the regular season play of those local leagues. There's over 6,000 local leagues that enter this tournament. And over a 5-week period through double elimination tournaments, we go from district to section to state to region and then to World Series. District 4 here in California is part of Northern California Section 1. Which is made up of 5 districts that surround us: San Francisco, Sonoma, Napa, Mendocino, Yolo counties. Then we're part of the state of Northern California, which might sound interesting, but there are 2 states in California in Little League, and Northern California is one of 12 states in the West region. So this year, of course, we're only going to have World Series for Little League Baseball and softball. Everything else will end at the state level. These all-star tournaments, the international tournaments of Little League Baseball and softball, are played under the official Little League playing rules and regulations. There are no local league rules that are allowed, and ground rules for fields do apply, and everyone should be aware of those. We said earlier for baseball, we have 5 different tournaments by age grouping. These are the 5, starting with 8 to 10-year-olds up to senior, which is 15 and 16-year-olds. Softball also has 6 levels, as you can see. So let's talk about all-star tournament rules. Why are these important? It's very important as you as the umpire understand the tournament rules where there may be things that differ from what you've done in the regular season. We're going to cover some of that. And over the next few slides, we're going to cover a variety of all-star tournament rules. And unless it's specifically noted, these apply to both baseball and softball and all divisions of play. We're only going to cover those that are significantly different than regular season or which require emphasis during the tournament. The specific tournament rules are actually in the rule book. Sometimes it's referred to as the back of the book or the T rules for tournament rules. You'll find those in the Little League rule book under tournament, organization, playing rules, and conditions. One last thing, this rule overview assumes that you already are very familiar and competent at the understanding and application of the primary rules of Little League Baseball and softball, which are covered in rules 1 to 9 and the regulations. This is not a rules clinic. Our rules clinics were held earlier in the season, and if you're interested in understanding more about rules 1 to 9 and the regulations, you can refer to our rules clinic video presentations, which are available on the California District 4 website on the Umpire pages under Umpire Resources. I encourage you to go and review those rules videos if you did not participate in the clinics earlier this spring. Let's jump right into some of the tournament rules and areas of emphasis. First of all, the number of adult coaches. So during tournament time, there are limits as to the number of coaches. Just like in regular season, a team is only allowed to have a maximum of 3 coaches and manager included on the team roster and participating in a game at any one time. This is further limited in all-star play. So if there are 12 or more players in uniform at the start of the game, they may have 3 adults involved, a manager and 2 coaches. If they only have 11 or less at the start of the game, they may have only 2 adults. So what is the start of the game? We deem that as when the plate umpire takes the lineup card from the manager at the exchange of lineups at the plate meeting prior to the game. There are also restrictions on who these individuals can be. They must be on the specific roster listed in the team affidavits. Your tournament directors will manage those verifications. Your job as the umpires is to confirm the number of eligible players at the start of a game and to work with the tournament director to ensure that we have either 3 adults or 2, depending on the number of players. Baseballs and softballs for use during the tournament. During baseball, we need a baseball that meets the Little League standards. So one, you should be looking for a ball that says Little League on it, or for larger diamonds, Senior Little League. And the ball should be imprinted with an RST logo under the ball model number for each manufacturer. There is a list of approved baseballs on the Little League website. What we really need to know as umpires is, if you get a ball, look and see that it has the RS-T for tournaments stamped on the ball. So this would be a ball that's approved for both regular season and tournament. For softball, we're looking for a high quality ball, and 8 to 10-year-olds use an 11-inch ball, and the other divisions use a 12-inch ball. Bat size. Bats must meet the same limits during tournament play as they did during regular season. We have a limit of, for majors and below, 2 5/8 and 33-inch, intermediate up to 34-inch, and seniors up to 36-inch. Majors must be imprinted with USA Bat, intermediates and juniors, USA Bat or BB Core logos, seniors BB Core only. For softball, bats must be BPF 1.2. Majors and below are limited in length to 33, and juniors and seniors at 34. These are important to know, as we'll talk about equipment inspection in a moment. What happens if I use a bat that's outside of those standards? First, I want to differentiate. We're talking about using an illegal bat. We're not talking about a bat through inspection which is damaged in any way. This is an illegal bat that did not meet the specification, was not properly labeled with the USA Bat or the BB Core logo, or exceeds the diameter or length limits or obviously has been altered in an attempt to overcome the standards. If a player has an illegal bat and comes into the batter's box, and it is discovered. Now, who can discover this? The umpire or the other team can discover it, bring it to the attention of the umpire. Then the player who used the illegal bat will be called out. However, if there is a play, the defensive manager can accept the outcome of the play. Following the end of that action, the player and the manager are both ejected from the game, and the team now obviously loses one adult base coach position because they're down to 2 adults involved in the game. One must be in the dugout at all times. That would mean only one more can be on the base pass as a coach. The illegal bat is then removed from the game. If we have another instance like this, we essentially follow the same procedure, and that player and the replacement manager would be ejected. It's an important thing to remember and to keep in mind the penalties associated with an illegal bat. How many players can be involved in a tournament game? So each team must have at least 9 players. During regular season, many leagues operated where they could play with 8 players. This is not allowed during All-Star. And with those 9 players, at least, we will have a batting order of 9 players, not a continuous batting order at any level of play. Mandatory play. This is an important issue for tournaments. Little League is all about participation, ensuring everyone has an equal chance to play the game. So during tournament time, we have some specific rules regarding how we emphasize the opportunities given to our players. So let's talk a bit about what's the mandatory play requirement for our players on teams. One is determined at the plate meeting. Remember, this is the same time we determine how many players are eligible to determine how many adult coaches and managers. The same time we're going to apply these rules. If the team has 13 or 14 rostered players in uniform eligible to play, mandatory play will only be 1 at bat. And if they have 12 or fewer, mandatory play is 1 at bat and 6 consecutive defensive outs. Okay, notice there's no mandatory play in senior baseball or softball during tournament play. Talk a bit more about mandatory play and some of the definitions. What is an at bat? Because we talked about we needing 1 at bat to meet mandatory play. So an at bat it starts when the player enters the batter's box, and it doesn't complete until the time at bat ends with the player being retired, or if that batter got on base, that bat, in essence, for defining mandatory play, does not end until they're retired as a batter runner. So prior to reaching first base or following on, put out on the base pass, or if they got to first or beyond, now they're a runner that they were put out on the bases, or they scored, or the inning or game ends. So let's try to simplify this. A player enters the batter's box with no count. They need 1 at bat for mandatory play. So the at bat has started. They cannot be substituted now because they have not met their mandatory play after starting an at bat. So now they either make an out at bat, or they get on base and they finish running, they're put out or scored, or the inning or game ends. The batter called out for using an illegal bat or batting out of turn has met the same requirements. A player removed prior to meeting the running portion is treated as improper substitution. So what this means is a player removed once the at-bat has started and they have not completed the at-bat by being retired or retired as a batter runner or retired as a runner or scored or left on base as the inning or game ends. right? They're not to be substituted for. It's considered to be improper. We will advise the manager that the substitution is improper and we cannot allow it to happen. How do we manage the situation of players not being entered into the game? So to ensure that we don't have mandatory play violations at the beginning, prior to the start of the fourth inning, so prior to any action beginning in the top of the fourth, the umpire in chief, typically the plate umpire, will meet with each manager and advise them of their obligation to insert players into the lineup who have not met mandatory play. And if they refuse to make the entries as the plate umpire advises, they will result in immediate ejection of the manager. So what does this mean? We have a meeting with the managers. We tell them these certain players have not yet mandatory play. We advise them of their obligation to enter them at certain time, which I'll go over in just a minute. If the manager says, no, I don't plan to do it that way, we are to stop the game and advise the tournament director to contact up the chain of command, which the next call would be to our district administrator, to advise them that a manager is failing to carry out their responsibilities under mandatory play. So here are the entry requirements. These are covered in the tournament regulations. This is a summary. So if there's 12 or fewer players, remember mandatory play for 12 or fewer players was 1 at bat and 6 consecutive outs. So if we have a visiting team who is not, players have not met the 6 consecutive defensive outs, that means that they're going to have to play 2 innings in the field on defense to meet that. So for a game of 6 innings, they would have to enter in the 4th inning to get the 4th and the 5th, because the 6th, bottom of the 6th, may not happen. So we are to tell, at this point, we tell the manager of the visiting team, you have these players who have not met the defensive requirement. You must enter them in the bottom half of the 4th. You ask them, where are you going to enter them? What is your plan to do that? And they have to do it within the next 6 positions. Why is that? Because that substitute also needs to get his 1 at bat. So we need to have 2 opportunities for batting, which would be the top of the 5th and the top of the 6th. Similarly, for the home team, they have to insert prior to the top half of the 5th. So they would get an at-bat in, they would get the top of the 5th and the top of the 6th on defense. There's 6 consecutive outs. And they have to be entered in the next 3 spots in the lineup to ensure that they get their at-bat prior to the game ending. So if they say, don't worry, I'm going to put him in later, we may go 3 up, 3 down in the bottom of the 4th, and 3 up, 3 down in the bottom of the 6th. But he had him slotted to go in somewhere else. We're not allowing that to happen because they were going to enter them in the 5th. That means the only possible at-bat time would be the bottom of the 5th. With 13 or more, it's a little simpler. So now only 1 at-bat is required. So they can be entered in the 4th or 5th, or as one of the first 3 batters in the 6th. And similarly, for the home team, they bat in the 4th or one of the first 3 in the 5th. This is an important thing that we as the plate umpire need to have this meeting with the managers to ensure they understand which players have not met mandatory play. Substitutions. This is different than the substitution rule for regular season, and many leagues use a continuous batting order where substitution rules are even simpler. So let's quickly go through what the substitution rules are. So a player who has been removed for a substitute, this could be a starter or another substitute who was removed for a second substitute, may re-enter the game, but only in the same position in the batting order. Often you will hear they're married in that spot or they're slotted in there. They can only re-enter in the same position in the batting order. And a substitute who enters for the first time cannot be removed until meeting mandatory play requirement. And once the starter and the substitute or subsequent substitutes in that spot meet mandatory play, there are free substitutions for those players who met the mandatory play. That means that a player can come in and out once they and their substitute have met mandatory play. A starter is someone named in the lineup, handed to you at the plate meeting. A starter may be substituted for prior to meeting mandatory play. However, once they enter the batter's box, as I said earlier, the at-bat begins and they have to complete that at-bat to meet the requirement of mandatory play. So if a starter is listed on the starting lineup, they're with the home team and they play 3 outs in the field, and then in the bottom of the first, the manager says, we're going to substitute for that player when they come to bat. That's fine, that can be done, but not after the player enters the batter's box. So multiple players can be in the same batting order spot, as I said, as long as we meet the starter and substitute requirements. And if a team is out of eligible substitutes, just like in the regular season, the opposing manager chooses a player not currently in the lineup to replace that batter, that person in the lineup as an eligible player. So for senior baseball and softball, there's no mandatory play. Starters removed for a sub may re-enter only once. And a sub removed from the game may not re-enter the game. When do lineup changes happen? Important thing for umpires to know. Offensive changes, the team batting, those changes can only be made when the player is coming up to bat or when they enter as a runner. So make sure that as you're working the lineup with the manager, they come to you and say, this inning, number 3, number 6, and number 7 are going to come up in these spots in the batting order. What you are to tell the manager is, let me know when they come up to bat, or have the player bring the change to me. You can only make the offensive change when they're actually entering the game. Defensive changes happen whenever a player takes their position on the field on defense. So hopefully the manager is going to tell you when those defensive changes happen. Again, do not take those changes in anticipation of future innings. Only get them when players are entering the field. And this is one of those situations where an unannounced substitution could occur. You didn't notice it at the plate, no one told you, but more likely they just made a change on defense without telling anyone. And the scorekeeper did not keep them. It's very important that you keep all changes on your lineup card, announce all the changes to both managers, and ensure that the official scorekeeper has recorded the change. We need to have confirmation from the manager that those are the changes they want to make. How do games end? How will a game end? One of the ways is through the run rule, which is one team has an excessive number of runs over the other. For Little League Baseball and softball, majors and below, if a team is ahead by 15 runs after 3 innings, or 2.5 if the home team is the team ahead, or 10 runs after 4 innings, 3.5 innings if the home team is leading, the game will end. There's no option, the game ends. And for those divisions where 7 innings is the game duration, we have 1 additional inning to play, so 15 runs after 4 or 10 runs after 5. There are no time limits in the international tournament. There are curfews. Hopefully these will not come into play. We only have 1 or 2 locations that have field lights. So if we have games that are going on at midnight or 12:30 in the morning, we obviously have something interesting going on. No time limits. So what happens if we have a game that has to get suspended due to weather, darkness, unplayable field conditions? Or I guess it could also end where there's not enough players to continue the game. They only have eight eligible players to participate. So if the game is suspended and a winner cannot be determined at that point, it will be resumed at a later date at that point of suspension. If it's a regulation game, the visiting team ties or takes the lead and the home team can't complete its half of the inning, the game is suspended. The game does not revert back to the previous inning. But if it is a regulation game, so that's 4 innings for majors and below, 5 innings for intermediate, juniors, seniors. If it is a regulation game, a winner can be determined. How is a winner determined in this situation? If we've completed, let's say, 4 innings in a major baseball game, we've fully completed all 4 innings and one team is ahead, then we will deem that that team is the winner of the shortened game, but still regulation. Just for clarity, the last note here refers to we're in regulation, but one team has gone ahead. We're not going to say, well, we're going to go back to the prior inning. A tie game. What happens in a tie game? So in majors and below, or in the 6 after 6, or for 7 for intermediate, junior, seniors, we're going to play the first extra inning normally by normal rules. If we get to the second extra inning, so that would be the 8th inning for majors or the 9th inning for intermediate, junior, seniors, we're going to start that half inning with the batter who's last in the order of that inning. They'll start at second base with no outs. And we have all of the other conditions allowed, substitutions and special pinch runners. So this tiebreaker approach allows more opportunities to score another run in the second extra inning. Let's move on with some more rules. Foot in the batter's box. We all know this rule. This is covered under Tournament Rule 3A. The batter must keep at least 1 foot partially in the batter's box during the at-bat unless one of several exceptions are met. We want you to enforce this rule. Please review the rule. And the third strike not caught. Batter becomes a runner if the third strike is not caught in flight with first base open or 2 outs, except in 8 to 10-year-old baseball and softball, where many of the players came from the minor divisions. Enforce this rule. Most of the teams will be fully aware of this. Remember, a ball that bounces prior to reaching the plate and caught by the catcher is still not a completed pitch, it is a third strike not caught, since it did not reach the catcher in flight. So remember that. Courtesy runners are a regular season rule option. They are not allowed in tournament play. However, special pinch runners with more limitations than in regular season are allowed. Only twice in a game and not more than once per inning can you use a special pinch runner. And a player may not be special pinch run for more than once per game. So let's just clear this up, make sure this is clear. I have a player who gets on base. I can insert a player currently not in the lineup to be the runner for that player. However, if he gets on base, say 2 innings down, we can not run for that player again. We can run for another player that inning. But again, we can only do this twice in a game, and it's not a substitution. The stealing of signs. This is an important rule. The stealing of signs is considered unsportsmanlike behavior. If you as the umpire suspects that stealing of signs by a manager, coach, or player has been relayed on to the batter, we should warn the person involved. On the second instance of that, that person will be ejected, whether it's the manager, the coach, or the player. Unsportsmanlike behavior. Protests. This is a specific area of emphasis that we need to handle appropriately as umpires. Protests can and will occur during international tournament games. What is specifically protestable? Here's a list of some examples: awarding of bases, a rule interpretation and application, a mandatory play requirement violation, an improper substitution, or an ineligible pitcher or player utilization. What are non-protestable? Umpire's judgment, safe out, fair foul, strike ball. Equipment evaluation, ejections or protests that occur after the next pitch, not in accordance with the protest procedure. Remember, the key word here is the manager wants to protest. Basically, generally, it's a rule application that you as the umpires, in their opinion, have done improperly, or there is an improper substitution or ineligible player. What happens during a protest? When the manager says that P word, protest, everything stops and play doesn't resume until the protest is over. Games do not continue under protest as they would in the regular season. And even if they make a protest over judgment, your application of fair foul, whether the ball was fair foul or whether your strike zone's wrong, the protest continues. Umpires have no ability to decide what is or what is not protestable. And play doesn't resume until the manager drops the protest or the protest issue has been resolved by the tournament committee. What's important here is to make sure in your communications with managers as they come to protest that you're making specific reference to the rules and how you have applied the rules. Do not make comments that are judgmental about the manager or which give any uncertainty as to how you are interpreting the rules differently than the Little League rule book would indicate. So when a formal protest happens, this is the procedure we need to use. We acknowledge the manager's protest. All umpires get together. That means all the umpires who are on the game, whether it's 2, 3, 4, 6. You conference, you discuss the question that the manager has embedded in their protest. If it's unresolved, the manager continues to say they're unhappy with the decisions made by the umpires, the umpire chief will then advise the tournament director that the protest needs to proceed. Tournament director will contact the district administrator, who will give their ruling. If this still doesn't resolve the protest, the district administrator will call Western Region headquarters. They will either again provide another ruling, which still unresolved, the region will contact the tournament committee in Williamsport. The important thing is nothing can happen until this is done. Pitching visits. So in the 8 to 10-year-old baseball and softball, we get 2 visits per inning. The pitcher is removed on the 3rd, 3 per game, removed on the 4th. All other divisions, we have 1 visit per inning, removed on the 2nd, and 2 per game, removed on the 3rd. Visits to any defensive player is charged as a visit. Following rules apply only to baseball. So here's the maximum number of pitches in a day. These are the same as we have in regular season. I'm not going to go over them in detail. Managers should be fully aware of these. Typically, it's 75, 85, or 95. Player cannot pitch in 3 consecutive days, regardless of how many they pitched in prior days. And if they pitch 41 or more, they may not play the position of catcher. And a catcher who has caught 4 or more innings may not pitch. But let's say you have a player who starts as a catcher, catches 3 innings, and then they go to pitcher. And then later in the game, the manager wants to return them to catcher. Well, that can only happen if they threw 20 pitches or less, or 30 pitches or less for seniors. This is an important thing to keep track of: catcher to pitcher, pitcher to catcher, substitutions. Here's the days of rest. Again, you can review these, but managers should be fully aware of these days of rest. Can a pitcher re-enter after being removed from the mound? In Little League Baseball and below, no. Pitcher once removed from the mound may not come back as a pitcher. Except, let's say they've met mandatory play, and now they want to bring in another player to bat for that pitcher. That's acceptable if both players have met mandatory play at the end of that at bat for the pinch hitter. And then the pitcher returns to the mound at the next half inning. In intermediate, junior, senior baseball, a pitcher removed from the mound but staying in the active lineup, so they've stayed in the defensive lineup, can come back as pitcher once in a game. And again, we have the exception for having a pinch hitter hit for the pitcher. What are some specific softball rules? There are calendar days of rest. So typically our softball tournaments are short, but if they pitch 6 innings, there's no rest. 7 innings or more, they have to take a day off from pitching, and they can pitch 12 innings in a day. And as long as the pitcher has been removed but stays in the defensive lineup, they can come back to the mound. And in juniors and seniors, there's no pitching restrictions in terms of number of pitches and days rest, but we still have the opportunities to return to the mound. Softball, leaving the base early. These are specific softball rules, points of emphasis. These are the regular season rules, but just for emphasis, since we don't have minors or majors, we have age group divisions. For 8 to 10-year-old softball, the ball must reach the batter before the runner can leave the base, or in the other divisions, the pitcher releases the ball during the pitch. Now we have some specific points of emphasis. Managers, coaches, and players. Only the manager and up to 2 coaches are allowed on the field at any one time. Prior to the game, get the tournament director to remove extra adults. This is independent of that action where you confirm the number of allowed managers and coaches. This is they can only have 3 on their approved team roster who are involved with the team during pregame. No coach may warm up a pitcher anywhere at the game site, and no coach may play catch with the pitcher. The suggestion is just tell the coaches, put the gloves away, and let the kids play the game. Players with bats must wear batting helmets in warm-ups. So this, they have a bat in the hand, they should have a batting helmet on their head. A catcher fielding infield or outfield practice near a coach with a bat must wear a catcher's helmet with dangling throat guard. And players warming up a pitcher must have a catcher's helmet, dangling throat guard, and a catcher's glove for baseball. These items have been gone over with the managers for All-Stars, so they're aware of them also. Our job as umpires is to enforce these expectations, working with the tournament director. During the game, again, only the manager and the 2 coaches are allowed on the field and during the dugout. And no conversations can happen between spectators and players, managers, or coaches during the game. So this means that unlike regular season, where we have normal exchanges going on between spectators in the grandstands and those in the dugout, we're not having those during tournament play. Please ask the tournament director to help you control that. There must be 1 adult in the dugout at all times whenever there are players. Please make sure this is happening. It's for the safety and control of our players. No coach may warm up a pitcher again, and no coach may play catch. So in between innings during warm-ups, the coaches cannot participate. Regardless of if they tell you it's easier, it's quicker, it's not happening. Coaches and managers must be inside the dugout during play. That means no sitting or standing on buckets outside the dugout. The dugouts are typically fenced areas with gates, or it's clear that there's the end of a concrete area. We will not have managers and coaches sitting on a bucket outside the end of the dugout. And coaches must remain in the dugout between innings and may take their base coaching positions only after the catcher throws the ball down or after the final warm-up pitch. And gates must be closed on the dugout. We talked earlier about the requirements for equipment. Now we're going to talk a quick moment about inspections. So the rules require the umpires to confirm that all the equipment to be used in the game meets specification. We do this by a pregame umpire inspection. So we already talked about what are the limits of a legal bat. But during our inspection, we're going to look for defective bats, those with crack, dents, other damage. We're going to look for illegal bats, not only those that do not meet the length and diameter or don't have the right logo. We're going to look for sticky substances because pine tar and sticky substances are not allowed on Little League bats. If you find a bat like that, it is to be removed. Helmets, we need to check for the safety logo. We need to check for cracks or torn padding. We need to check that the cheek guard is of the same manufacturer as the helmet. If it's not, and you see holes drilled in the helmet is to be removed. On the issue of decals, stickers, or painting, anything that covers up the safety logo or any cracks makes the helmet suspect. If we can't see damage, we can't determine whether the helmet is safe. We've said notionally that 20% of the helmet surface covered in decals or stickers might be acceptable. 20% of a helmet is a very small area. If you also find stickers or decals which are offensive or do not support the Little League mission, the helmet is not to be removed, be used, and it is to be removed. We also must look for catcher's equipment under the same kind of guidelines and the same expectations that we had for batter's equipment. Lineup cards. We've said it once about the need to manage substitutions. Keep accurate records on the lineup cards, all catcher changes, substitutions, special pinch runners, offensive timeouts, and defensive visits, and confirm those with your managers as they are happening. Electronic devices. Cell phones are not allowed on the field except for scorekeeping. Scorekeeping apps will be allowed in the dugout. So no electronic devices on the field, only in the dugout. Now, if it's a first responder, they may tell you I'm a first responder and I need to have my phone. As long as they're not communicating, that's acceptable. Okay, let's move on now and cover umpire procedures for the All-Star tournament. First of all, remember that as an All-Star umpire, since you have been nominated by your league, but you now are serving California District 4, you're no longer a local league umpire. Don't wear your local league uniform or say your high school or college association uniforms. Take pride in your appearance. Leave no questions about you being impartial, even if you're umpiring at your home field or if you're umpiring a game with one of your league teams, you're impartial. And don't socialize with friends and neighbors along the sideline fences during the games. Our job as umpires is to call a quality game, so make a good impression that lasts from the time you walk on the field to when you leave it. Who is an eligible all-star umpire? These should have been communicated to you by your league chief umpire. Let's run through them very quickly. First of all, you've been approved as a volunteer by your local league board of directors. This involves, if you're an adult, having a background check performed, you've completed the volunteer application, your president has reviewed that, and the board of directors has approved you. That you've umpired in the regular season for your league. We don't want umpires that just show up for the all-star season. You need to be experienced umpiring at the division you are nominated to work. So if you've only done minor baseball, be very cautious about taking an assignment in the 10 to 12 baseball. You need to have working knowledge of the District 4 umpire mechanics. So you get these by either attending one of our clinics in the past or reviewing the available umpire mechanics guides on the California District 4 website under umpire resources. We have umpire mechanics for 2, 3, and 4 umpire crews. You need to have completed the required training in the state of California regarding concussion awareness, youth sports abuse, also known as safe sports, and the sudden cardiac arrest awareness training. You've agreed to not accept cash payments to umpire games in the tournament, and you've been recommended by your league chief and president. And we recommend you belong to the Little League Umpire Registry. So where do I find out about these training that I mentioned? So these are not just arbitrary trainings that Little League is asking you to complete. These are required under California law for youth sports officials. If you go to the California District 4 website and you look under forms, you will find a section on training, and links to these 3 trainings are in that section. You click on there and it will launch the training. Each one is 20 to 30 minutes in length. You'll get a certificate of completion. I encourage you to do this and have those awareness of the key elements of safety as part of your toolkit. What else do I need to know before I come to do my game? We need to know the rules. As I mentioned earlier, we're not covering all the rules tonight, but hopefully you either have a rule book or you have the Little League Rulebook app on your phone and you've studied them. Also available on the District 4 website under Umpire Resources are these training materials that I mentioned earlier. We had our rules clinics, mechanics clinics, our videos associated with each of those available on the Umpire resource page. And we also have the mechanics guides and the lineup card instructions on the bottom. Those are all active links. How do umpire assignments happen? So I said earlier, you've all been nominated by your local chief umpire. But myself, as the District 4 umpire in chief, I'm responsible for selection and assignment of umpires to all-star games. How does this really work is your local league chief will contact you to put you on a game that has been assigned to a league to cover. I'm going to then review those assignments to ensure that they meet the quality standards for the level of play and the location, given the conditions that I know of about the tournaments. We have a web tool for scheduling umpires, a District 4 umpire scheduler web tool. You'll be given more information about how to access that. But we get to an actual game. Umpires may come from a different league. An umpire crews could be multiples of 2 umpires, 3 umpires, 4 umpires, or maybe even 6. So we said earlier, you're going to be expected to know and to use the standard District 4 umpire mechanics. Because let's say you go to a game and your partner didn't show up, but there's another umpire in the stands who just happens to have their uniform and equipment. They may come join you, but they're going to expect to use the standard mechanics. So what do I do if I actually got a game assignment? Here are some of the preliminaries we ask you to do prior to the game. Make sure you know when and where your game is by looking out for email, text messages, and the District 4 website. Get a hold of your partners the night before. You'll be getting an email 2 days prior to the meeting, to the game, with your partner's information. You're going to contact them, verify what game we're doing, what uniform we're wearing, where are we parking. Then make sure your uniform is ready, that it's clean, it's pressed, your shoes are polished. You're going to look good when you go out in the field. Make sure you have the right hat and it doesn't have sweat stains around the bill. Review the material for your game level, the rules and mechanics for a small diamond, big diamond, softball, or baseball. Arrive 60 minutes before the game. Bring your uniform, your umpire uniform and equipment. Why? I'm not the plate umpire. What happens if the plate umpire gets injured partway through the game? You may have to step in. And check again just prior to the game for late changes. When you get to the game site, if you don't see your partners at the approved parking area, go find the tournament director. There might be 2 games going on at your location. Make sure you know which field you are assigned to cover. Find the umpire parking area, let the TD know you're there, and if your partners show up, they know where to go. And ask if any of your partners have already checked in. Find out what the tournament director plans are for a pregame ceremony, and ask about any special safety precautions that exist at that facility. Now, all of you and the crew have arrived. Hold an umpire pregame meeting. Be on the same page regarding who's doing what during what situation. There's a list of certain things. Who has balls to the outfield? Who's taking trouble balls? Fair, foul. What about who's watching for tag ups, touches of bases? What are signals we're going to use for infield fly? Lots of things to cover. Quickly review what the specific rules are for the division and sport. Different rules for the younger age groups than for the higher up we go. And check to make sure everyone's properly dressed. I can't tell you how many times we've got to the field only to find out the plate umpire did not have their leg guards, their mask, or their cap. And then quickly say, let's have a great game so we can go to restaurant A afterwards. Entering the field, stay together at all times. Do not get separated. Enter the field no later than 25 minutes before the game time. You're having fun, remember that. Inspect the team equipment when you first enter. Stay together as a crew. So we say stay together, but the plate umpire may go and meet with the tournament director if there's multiple umpires. If there's only 2 umpires, stay together. Do not allow one umpire to be alone. Go to the dugout of the team not doing warm-ups. They should be in the dugout. Ask the manager to get the equipment placed outside the dugout. Do not go in the dugout looking for equipment. Inspect every piece of equipment. So the umpire that checked bats at one dugout will check bats at the other dugout. The same, the other umpire who did helmets will do helmets in the other dugout. That way there's no partiality to the inspection. And remove the illegal or defective equipment. And then go on to the other dugout after that team has completed their warm-ups. Each team will have 10 minutes of warm-ups. So you have plenty of time to do equipment inspection. You now have maybe 5 more minutes before the pregame ceremonies. Walk the field quickly, just looking for situations. And note those or any areas of the field that need to be remarked. And while you're doing this, of course, watch for the team, check the level of play, look out for issues that you might see involving the teams. There's going to be a pregame ceremony. Tournament director will host an event that typically involves introducing the players, announcing any league officials, presidents, etc. They may introduce the umpires, acknowledge the introduction if that happens. They're going to play the national anthem or the Pledge of Allegiance. They might recite the Little League Pledge. While this is happening, you're to be in a professional position behind the batter's box, out of the sight lines from the grandstands to the players who are typically on the foul lines or in the infield. During the national anthem, the Pledge of Allegiance, we want you to face the flag. And your right hand goes over your heart. Your hat does not go over the heart. Remember that. Following that, we're going to have a plate meeting. The plate meeting can involve the managers, the team captains, and the tournament director if needed. Plate umpire will introduce the members of the crew. Plate umpire receives the lineup cards, confirms the quality of the lineup cards, and all the players are on there's no duplicates, confirming any ineligible pitchers, any inning restrictions in softball, and confirm the catcher. Again, we ask the managers, are players properly equipped for Little League Baseball, softball today? They must say yes. Please ask this question. We confirm the ground rules. The tournament director can help with this. We end the meeting telling the home team manager to take the field. Teams should be in their dugouts, not outside playing catch or warming up while this meeting's happening. One other, remember, this is the international tournament. It's an important, exciting event. It is an all-star tournament. It's always appropriate to recognize the team's quality by saying congratulations on representing your league in the international tournament. During the game, where do umpires go? We want base umpires in the outfield behind the infield grass. The plate umpire should be on the baselines, defensive side, looking at the dugout of the team coming up to bat, 10 to 12 feet up the line. Don't meet with your partners. Keep things moving. If there's a pitching change or other changes going on, one of the base umpires can come help the plate umpire by counting the pitches and keeping the action moving. Stay away from spectators. Don't talk to the managers or coaches. And during this warm spring-summer period, make sure you're staying hydrated. And please keep your phone in your pocket. Better yet, keep your phone in your car. When the game ends, promptly leave to the winning side. Don't stop to talk to spectators, tournament director, or whatever. Go directly to the post-game gathering location. Have a post-game meeting where you talk about the game, starting with what could I have done better today and what am I proud of doing today in this game. It's all about improvement. If there's some issue during the game, send me an email or call me after the game to report protests, incidents, ejections. If the game ended in a tie or it's suspended, if you're the plate umpire, review your lineup card, make sure it's complete. You will then give the lineup card to the tournament director. The tournament director will bundle that with the scorebook, and it will get handed to one of the teams to take to the game. You're immediately notify me of the suspended game. The resumption of the game will be determined by our district administrators, typically at the next impacted game location. So there might be an elimination game or might be a winner's bracket game. Just all depends. We will assign a new umpire crew to complete the game. The District 4 standard lineup card. Each manager will be given one of these by the tournament director. It contains places to note all of the important information that you will need to manage the game. There are examples and instructions on the District 4 website on how to complete a lineup card. I'm not going to cover those during this session, but just note that a lineup card, when completed properly, looks like this with all the information filled in, including the name of the manager and all of the players and their number and positions. Then there are ways to keep track of things during the game. You can do them in whatever way you would like to do them. This is a recommended way to use our lineup card. Again, the instructions are on the District 4 website under the Umpire Resources page. The California 4 umpire uniform. Bottom line is you all need to match in terms of uniform style and colors. We would like you to wear either the Pro Black or the Pro Blue polo shirt as shown in the pictures to the right, with the Little League umpire patch affixed to the left sleeve. A mock turtle undershirt of black or white, the black California 4 hat with the blue lettering, no local league hats, black shoes, socks, belts, charcoal gray slacks, black ball bags if you're the plate umpire. Now, if your entire crew matches with the Little League umpire patch, that's acceptable. And there are ways to reduce the cost of you getting your equipment. So contact me if you have questions about that. Bring everything you have to a game. You never know when you might have to step in as the plate umpire. Umpire Scheduler. This is a web-based tool that allows you to interact with the game schedule, see where the games are, and to look at your assignments and the assignments of other umpires. Here is the Access website. Once you are set up in the system, you will receive an email saying you are set up and instructing you to go in, log in to change your password. c4ua.littleleagueblues.org is the way to access this scheduler. Talk to your chief umpire if you have questions. So to get you set up in the scheduler, your chief umpire needs to know this information: your cell phone, your email. Do you have good transportation? What kind of experience do you have? If you're youth or adult, and can they rely upon you if there's a late change? And your lead chief umpire will set you up and you'll be notified. Again, game assignments. Umpires are impartial, regardless of the teams involved. Only one youth umpire can be assigned to a game, and at least one adult must be on the game. All umpires are volunteers. No one gets paid. So remember, access the C4 umpire scheduler. Look for games assigned to your league. Let your chief umpire know where you want to umpire. Stand by for changes. And look for places where you can umpire. We'd love to have games filled out with 3 or 4 umpires. So look for openings. Contact your league chief or contact me, and we'll see if we can add you to an appropriate game. Where do I find the results of All-Star Play or updates? On the District 4 website, or California District 4 Little League.org. At the lower left of the menu is tournaments. If you click on that, up will come a page that lists tournaments by year. So you access one of the prior years, prior to 2021, you will see results and photos of the winning teams from all the tournaments dating back to 2010. But if you click on 2021 under All-Star, up will come what's on the right. And those are active links to the brackets for each of the levels of play. Those are updated after each day's play, showing who's in the next games and when those games will be. So that brings us to the close of our training. If you have any questions regarding All-Star procedures, scheduling, uniforms, anything else around the role of the umpire, contact me directly at llcad4uic@gmail.com or my phone number 925-788-6346. If you have issues with All-Star rules, contact Jim Rose at jrose001@aol.com. Thank you for participating. Thank you for participating tonight in this training. We're looking forward to a great tournament season. And remember, Little League Baseball and Softball is a leadership program. It's all about building better boys and girls in our communities. And our job as umpires is to support that mission. But when we get into the tournament, the All-Star tournament play, it is about winning and losing and how we can use those outcomes to teach our players life lessons. So it will be competitive. The level of play will be greater than in your regular season. So enjoy the tournaments, have fun, and I look forward to meeting all of you out on the field. Thanks again.